If you're alive as a human being listening to this podcast episode right now, likely you have been carrying some kind of story at some moment of your life about who you are and who you aren't. But the fact is, when you're born, you're not born with a limiting story in your mind. This is me. This is who I am. I'm not enough. I'm unlovable. I'm not good enough. Life is suffering the way it is. Money, I can't make money. You don't have a story. You're just born into this existence. You're born free in that moment, regardless of whatever the story is that you've been carrying up until now that might be limiting you. You are not your story. The story that you tell yourself is not who you are, as real as it might seem. It's simply the story that at some moment of your life, my friend, you made up. Let me repeat. It's a story because it's not reality. It's something that at some moment of your life you made up to try and make meaning of what was going on. You see, as young children, we all experienced challenging situations, difficult things, pain, hurt, abuse, trauma, divorce, neglect, experiences that maybe as a child you weren't able to process. As a child, you weren't able to understand. As a child, your nervous system wasn't sophisticated enough to really cope with. And, you weren't able to make sense of what was really going on in terms of certain experiences in that as a young child, age 2, age 3, age 5, age 7. You didn't have the brain mechanism even to be able to process and calibrate and really make true sense of what was happening when your dad was a certain way, or your mother left, or your parents got divorced. And so as a child, as a result, as young beings, young sensitive creatures, we end up trying our best to make the events of our lives make some kind of sense, fit into some kind of framework. And so as young children, we end up making meaning as a way to survive, function, cope, and deal with the world. We make up a meaning. So we make up a story about life. Oh, dad left, mom wasn't around. That must mean this about me. That must mean I'm unlovable. That must mean. And so we end up making a story about life, about people, about the way the world is. And our story is not necessarily the way it is. It's not reality. It's just the story we made up to try and understand and make sense of reality. And we make up the story as to why certain events happen to us. Most stories that you made up are often limiting. Most stories don't include the whole truth. When you make up a story, hold on to that story, it creates a sense of false safety inside. Oh, now I understand who I am. Oh, I'm not enough. I'm unlovable. Okay, even though it's not freeing, it's limiting, at least we have a sense, we think we have a sense of, okay, now I understand who I am. I have some sort of safety because I understand how life is, how a certain group of people are, how Asian people, black people, tall people, short people, gay people, straight people, Christian people, Islamic people. I understand how they are. They're just this way. We make up a story. We live inside of that story, thinking that understanding is going to protect us from pain, hurt, and danger. When you live inside of a story and you see life through that story, you filter every experience through that lens. As a result, many times the story that you make up about yourself, about life, about your capacity, your potential often becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You end up being limited and defined by that story, and your capacity often cannot exceed the story that you hold about yourself. The way you look at life will often determine the way life looks back at you. And so, if you want to change your life, one place you can begin is to change how you're looking at life. And even if life is the same, when you start changing how you're looking at life, start changing the lens, start changing the story, then many times life already starts shifting because you're looking at life in a whole different way. Unfortunately, as I said, many of our stories rob us of our freedom. Many of your stories limit you because we think that they're reality. So you first have to recognize your story isn't reality. And much of the time, we aren't even aware that we are living inside of a limited story. We actually think the story is the way it is. This is just the way men are. This is just the way life is. This is just the way things are.